Known from the Daytona International Speedway. Today on ABC's Wide World of Sports, the 13th running of the Daytona 500. I'm Keith Jackson. We have 40 cars sitting on the starting grid just about ready to bolt off, chasing some $200,000 in prize money. On the pole, car number 21. The driver of car number 21, A.J. Foyt. He's won in every major racing classification. I think if you put wheels on a barrel, this big Texan would give it a ride. A.J., I understand you're really hungry to win this one.
Oh, we really are, Keith. I've won the 400 2 years in a row here, and then I was injured and didn't compete the following year and hadn't run but maybe once since. I think last year I finished fourth here, and I feel our chances today are real good. The Mercury's performing beautiful, and with the Glenwood boys, I think the rest of the boys are going to have a tough combination to beat.
And now on pit row, here is Chris Economaki with the defending champion, Pete Hamilton.
Pete, the pressures must be on a driver in the Daytona 500, but as the defending champion, do you think there's more pressure on you to do well than if you hadn't won last year?
Well, I think so a little bit, Chris. I'd be kidding myself if I said anything other than I would like to be the only driver that's ever won this race twice in a row, and I'm the only fellow that has an opportunity to do that this year. We were able to win the 100-miler, and the car ran real good, so that's what I'm shooting for.
Thanks, Pete, and good luck. And now, over to Keith Jackson with Richard Petty.
Very competitive field this year, Richard. Might change the tactics for you a little bit in the body of the race.
Well, I think so. It looks like they got 3 or 4 boys up front that can run real good, and I think drafting is going to be a lot more important this year than it was the last couple of years because the body designs of the cars are not quite as slick as they were in the last couple of years, and this means they create a lot more draft, and anytime you do that, it's going to make it a lot closer.
You'll be in it. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
And now it's time to mount up. Bobby Isaac climbing into his number 71. A.J. Foyt, the pole sitter, inside on row 1 into a 69 Mercury. Leroy Yarborough, 1969 Super Speedway King. Fred Lorenzen, another hotshot on the Super Speedways, coming back. Richard Brooks, who'll be driving the only winged car on the track. We'll define that for you a little later. Cale Yarborough, rather deep in the field, back in the 7th row. And now Bill France, president of Daytona International Speedway, ready to start him. Defending champion here at Daytona in the 500, Pete Hamilton right there. And they're ready to move out behind the pace car. It's expected to be one of the most competitive 500s that we've had in some time because you have the unusual factor of a race car with a governor on it, Chris Economaki.
That's right, Keith. Only one car in the 40-car field has not a carburetor restrictor plate. Richard Brooks in the wing Dodge, he's got a tiny little engine. The speeds are down from past years. The fans don't seem to mind because the field is bunched. A close, hard-fought race is looked for.
As they move into the pace lap, the temperature is 50 degrees, and we're looking for the green flag in just a moment. A crowd of better than 90,000 on hand at Daytona International Speedway for the 13th running of the Daytona 500. More than $200,000 to be split up at the end of the 500 miles. The temperature, it's quite cool, right about 50 degrees, but the wind, which has been gusty through the week, is quiet today. Car number 21, car number 71. That's A.J. Foyt and Bobby Isaac, 69 Mercury, 71 Dodge on the front row. As they come around at the end of this pace lap, we are anticipating the green light, the green flag, and go in the 13th Daytona 500. Let's watch and see whether or not the green is dropped for them. Everybody up for the start of this one. 2.5 miles, paved tri-oval. And it's green. Here we go. Bobby Isaac edging to the front at the start.
It's got to be some moment, Keith, barreling into that first turn, not knowing what the other fellow's going to do. And look at that, 3 wide in the 2nd row, and there's still a battle for the number 1 position.
As they come off turn 2, it's A.J. Foyt in the 69 Mercury, the pole sitter, taking the lead on the first run through the back straight. Richard Petty moves up into 2nd place.
It looks as though it's going to be another battle of the brands of Mercury and a Plymouth, 1st and 2nd here.
The man who found the advantages of drafting back around 1959 was the man in the blue car, Richard Petty. Earlier today, we talked to Richard about this factor of drafting, what the benefits are, and how you best use it on a super speedway like we have here at Daytona.
the drafting's a lot more important this year because the cars are creating a lot more wind. Last year we had spacer bodied cars, and they really didn't knock much of a hole in the wind when they went through. Also, this meant that the car behind didn't have as much to draft because they was slick and it wasn't as much air circulating. This year we went back to stock bodies with no winders, and these cars at 180 mile an hour are creating some kind of wind for us. There's a lot more wind, there's a lot more drag, and he's able to draft a lot better.
The voice of Richard Petty, comments made earlier today before the start of the race. A.J. Foyt has the lead. David Pearson has moved right up alongside Richard Petty now. And Pearson, of course, is a veteran on the super speedway and one of the real tough competitors in the business. He is now running second.
3 times the national champion, and you don't get that, Keith, by drawing out of a hat. He's putting the pressure on Foyt now.
Foyt qualified at better than 182 miles an hour, 2 miles an hour faster than his partner on that front row in the start, Bobby Isaac. So he is by far the fastest car. But that does not always mean victory, and Pearson now has moved into the lead, and you saw the result of the draft right there as David just snapped into front.
Pearson's 69 Mercury set up rather loose. He went by Foyt on the inside, and then the car skated across the track in front of Foyt to the top. It's going to be a wild race, Keith.
Chris, A.J. told me just before the start of the race that he had tightened his car considerably, figuring, in fact, gambling that the wind would be a factor in the race.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, Pearson is showing a lot of speed out here, but the other drivers are staying remarkably close. Usually someone is able to sneak away by 10 or 20 car lengths, but not now. We have 7 cars all challenging here.
And A.J. Foyt now slingshots his way back into the lead. Foyt is lead. Baker is moving up. The challenge for second place up on turn 2. We've got a wreck. Look at that. Wow.
What a crash, Keith. I don't think I've ever seen one this bad. Looks like a Ford.
Car number 60. I don't know how in the world the following cars managed to avoid him. One of them came well inside on the grass to avoid making contact with some of the flying debris. Car number 60, Maynard Troyer, 32-year-old rookie from Spencerport, New York, flipped an incredible number of times. I have no idea how many times it was, but I think perhaps the fact that the car remained remarkably intact is quite a story in itself.
Remarkable is the correct word, Keith. The car held together beautifully. The car was built by Smokey Eunuch here in Daytona Beach. It was driven in the 500 a couple of years ago by Indianapolis winner Bobby Unser, and it shed a lot of parts on its way over. We certainly hope he's all right.
Troyer did stay inside the vehicle. Of course, these fellows are really strapped in there, inside the roll cage, and over the past couple of years, we have seen some remarkable survival stories come out of racing. Obviously, the leaders all hit the pits under the yellow to check with their crew chiefs to take on gas, and some of them are taking on some fresh tires. We're going to take another look at the accident coming off turn 2 involving Maynard Troyer's car.
Here he comes down off the banking, Keith, and the smoke is from his tires locked up. He's on the brakes. He obviously had some sort of trouble that sent him into a slide. And he hits the apron. The car starts a slow, lazy side-over-side roll. It looks like it's not too bad at this point, but then as it proceeds down the track, it starts to snap roll and tumble over and over and over again. Wheels and other parts fly off the car. And this is one of the reasons why the side glass window has been taken out and the mesh replaced, because the glass does not get on the track. There, a big piece of the car is over. Notice that the roll cage is doing its job. The top has not come down on the driver. The body, the shell is intact, and Troyer is in there, his safety straps holding him where he belongs. The roll cage in this beautifully constructed car has done its job well.
All right, the green flag is out and we're racing again. In the 13th annual Daytona 500, Buddy Baker has the lead in the 71 Dodge. Pete Hamilton is second, David Pearson, James Hilton. Dicing for third, Richard Petty right in there with the pack 2. Maynard Troyer has been taken to the hospital. We'll check his condition for you.
Well, we've got 4 cars have broken away, Keith, just a little bit from the back of the pack. It's a tremendously close race. We've had a constant reshuffling of the lead, and here it goes again with Pete Hamilton now darting for the number 1 position on the back straightaway going into 3, and Pearson in his draft in the number 17 Mercury.
We talked earlier today with Pete Hamilton about racing, what it's all about, why all the dicing on the track.
You might just pass a guy momentarily. You might not even lead that lap. You might pass him going down the back stretch, and he might catch you again coming down the home stretch, and he might get credit for that lap. But in effect, you won that one little race, and that's the whole deal. Racing is passing, and racing is beating the other fellow.
But the fiscal advantage is to pass at the end of the lap.
And get the lap money, Keith. There's
right.
a lot of it up here today.
Pete Hamilton, who won the Daytona 500 last year, he was quite a story, won over $130,000 his first full year in good equipment, and here he is again this year. In the meantime, David Pearson hangs in there and slips through and takes the lead. That's Baker in the white car.
As fiercely competitive as these drivers are, Keith, they must have tremendous respect for one another to go into a corner at these speeds better than 177 miles an hour, 3 abreast, as they just did.
So the governors they have put on the carburetors have not had that much effect on the speed, but what it has done is close the field so that you have fantastic competition. The lead has changed hands now, I think, right at 20 times already. And Pete Hamilton, number 6, slides back out in front.
A moment ago, we had 4 cars broken away, and now look at this cluster for the lead.
7 of them, in effect, a 7-car draft. Many old-timers, you note, walking around, you're just shaking their heads over what's going on out there.
Bobby Isaac down low in the red number 71 Dodge, moving to 3rd, side by side with David Pearson. Hamilton, the leader, and Buddy Baker in 2nd in the white number 11 Dodge. What a race.
A.J. Foyt, who was so much a factor earlier in the race, and the pole sitter, as you note, is not in it. Here's Cale Yarborough into the pits. So the veteran from Timminsville, South Carolina, pits, and looks like he's pulled his helmet off and coming out of the car. So he may be out of it for the rest of the day.
He's had a tough year. And a new leader on the back straightaway, David Pearson.
Bobby Isaac, number 71, in 2nd place. Baker holds 3rd. Now let's find out what happened to Cale Yarborough.
We lost our oil pressure for some reason. I guess we burned a piston or something and lost the oil pressure. We just had our problems all day. We kept cutting down tires all day, but it just wasn't our day.
So Cale Yarborough will watch the rest of the race from the shade.
Nose to tail, 9 cars, Keith. Anyone could lead in a moment.
Here comes Bobby Isaac moving up on the inside. And Buddy Baker hanging on to his bumper. So it's Isaac, Baker. Donnie Allison moves up.
And the wing car shows for the first time in the top 4. Richard Brooks with that little 305-inch engine Dodge, the slope-nosed winged car, the engine penalty not being too difficult. And here's Brooks now up into 2nd place, and the fans are rooting for this little car they call a mini motor. Goes down underneath and takes the lead. And is everybody yelling now?
Bobby Isaac trying to fight him off, and here comes Baker. And Donnie Allison. Allison, number 27, in the Mercury. Bobby Isaac has the lead.
Now the traffic is jumbling the situation, Keith. They're having to move into a single file line to get around the slower cars. Here's Leroy Yarborough, a former winner, coming down off the track, and a fire underneath that Mercury.
Fire under Leroy's car.
Fire down below. He's going to bail out of this one, and here come the fire crews. He's got his fireproof suit on, and he's concerned now about saving the car.
He did not hit anything. I don't believe he touched the wall at all. He was running back in the traffic in no trouble. Just suddenly the fire started, and here's the result.
Here come the hoses.
So they'll get the fire out of Leroy Yarborough's car. The yellow light is on. Everybody falls into a pack. Those trailing close it up. And the leader is Bobby Isaac. Richard Brooks is 2nd, Buddy Baker 3rd, Donnie Allison 4th. We're back here at Daytona International Speedway, the 13th running of the Daytona 500, and can you believe what we've already seen? We've had 9-car drafting, we've had 5-car drafting, and the field is still tightly bunched. So let's pick up the action at the Daytona 500.
Bobby Isaac is leading, Keith, but it's been a tremendous competition. There have been 26 individual exchanges of the lead among 10 drivers. The speed after 3 yellow flags is down to 135 miles an hour, but the pace out there is better than 178. And there's still 7 drivers close together, any one of whom can take the lead at will.
The red car, number 71, is Bobby Isaac, who was the Grand National champion last season. In second place, Buddy Baker, the white car, number 11. They string out a little bit at this point, but watch them now. They'll close it up as they work into the turns. A.J. Foyt, who has been somewhat out of the picture for the last few minutes, has suddenly, in car number 21, jumped back into the battle for the lead. Foyt now has moved up into third position, and he will probably momentarily challenge Baker. Look how close they are, and he's running right along with Baker in the fight for second place.
That's been the story of this race. Look at this traffic in the wing car. The little 305 Dodge is staying right there. He's been in front a couple of times and is holding his own very well, but he has forced the draft, Keith. He cannot do it alone.
This is the 13th annual Daytona 500, 2.5-mile paved tri-oval. 200 laps around the 2.5-mile course, and this is, of course, the premier super speedway. Speeds historically here among the highest anywhere on the Grand National Tour.
Because of those 31-degree banks in the corners, 31 degrees in the turns, 18 degrees at the start-finish line, and look at this traffic. Cars in 3 lanes there, racing competitively.
A crowd of better than 90,000 watching. The temperature at race time was right around 50 degrees. A chill wind that had been blowing across this area has quieted down for the race today. It's Bobby Isaac, number 71, in the lead. Foyt is running in second place now, having passed Buddy Baker in the white Dodge.
The pace is in the high 70s, close to 180, and considerably off last year's speed, but the fans don't know the difference. We're seeing great competition, Keith.
Looks like Bobby Isaac has suddenly dropped off the lead. He is dropping well back as Foyt, Baker, and Hamilton peel out of the pack and race into the lead, and Isaac is steadily dropping back into the field, so we'll keep an eye on him and see whether or not he has to come in.
Well, this is the beginning of a busy season for the Grand National set. They'll go 500 miles in Ontario, California on the 28th of February, and then come back east to Richmond, Virginia for a Grand National on the 7th of March. In Rockingham, North Carolina, the American 500 goes on March 14th. In Atlanta, Georgia, on April 4th, the Atlanta 500 marks the beginning of ABC's Championship Auto Racing Series this year.
So it's going to be a busy year for the late model stockers, and A.J. Foyt has the lead with Baker running behind him and Hamilton running in third place and coming up to challenge for second place. Pete Hamilton in the blue car. And Bobby Isaac apparently is going to come in. He is slowed way down, but in the meantime, out on the track, look at this grouping.
When Isaac dropped out, it just gave the other drivers that much more room in which to operate. Oh, look how close they're going. And here's Isaac, headed for the pits. He's got problems, Keith. We'll have to check and see just what it is that's bothering him.
It's expensive for him because he's having to pit on the green. Everybody out on that track really flying right now.
It's a flat left front tire. He apparently cut a tire on some debris, and they're taking the stuff out from the radiator. Some of the drivers have had overheated engines today because of litter being scooped up onto the radiator.
Here's the mini motor, Richard Brooks, now up there battling for first place.
Remarkable combination of car and driver doing a fine job at A.J. Oh!
That's Brooks and Hamilton.
Wow, A.J. Foyt went by Brooks on the inside, so close that the draft upset the traction of the number 22. He bobbled. Hamilton was so close that he tapped him, and now they're both proceeding slowly around the track with damage to their cars. Not bad, however, and the Porsche pace car goes out as the yellow light blinks on one more time.
Hamilton, as you can see, has extensive damage on his right front of his car where he made contact with Brooks, but I thought, Chris, it was a remarkable piece of driving on the part of both these young men to maintain control of their vehicle.
Well, that was an 177-mile-an-hour fender bending incident, and both continued around. Brooks's car will probably have to have some tires put on. He flat spotted them probably in the spin. And look at the right front corner of Hamilton's car here. That's trouble.
They've got the torch out, so apparently they're going to have to do some cutting to get that fender off the tires. So here they come. They'll light the torch, and obviously it's going to be an expensive stop right here for Hamilton, even though the caution is out.
But you know, Keith, that's going to upset the aerodynamic characteristics of the car. He will not be able to run as fast without a fender as he could with a fender if he gets back in the race.
A.J. Foyt hits the pit, so most of your leaders are coming in. Now here comes Brooks. Let's take a look at his car and see how much damage he sustained in that bumping incident. He's damaged on the left side, so again it becomes a question of whether or not the aerodynamics will be affected, but both cars will continue to run. We'll be back in a moment. The Daytona 500 continues under the green and leading right now. Car number 12, a 1970 Dodge driven by Bobby Allison, and that, Chris, is quite a story because Allison started 31st.
More than that, Keith, he's one of the few drivers who owns and maintains his own car. His brother Eddie is his crew chief, and that is an achievement.
Closing is A.J. Foyt, pulls out, slingshot, Foyt's in the lead. Baker follows him, takes second. Petty in the blue car moves up to challenge for third.
Now look at this, Keith. A moment ago, Bobby Allison was leading. Now he's back in 5th place as his brother Donnie, number 27 Mercury, moves to 3rd.
What you had Foyt, Petty swinging out, then Allison came right along in the draft. Donnie Allison.
The cars in the race, 1971s, 1970s, and 1969s allowed in NASCAR competition. And it seems that the only 71s that are really aerodynamic are those Chrysler and Plymouths. The rest are slipperier from the 69 year.
Richard Petty, car number 43. Buddy Baker, car number 11. And Baker is surrendering second place to A.J. Foyt. So you saw A.J. drop back, but here he comes again. And he is shooting for the lead, and we'll have more right after this. Keith Jackson along with Chris Economaki. The Daytona 500 continues, and watch this battle between two of the best. Car number 43 is Richard Petty. Car number 21, A.J. Foyt. Foyt shooting for the lead. He's got it. A.J. Foyt, who made his fame in the open cockpit USAC racing cars. Richard Petty, who stays only with the stockers, and A.J. Foyt has the lead right now, just grabbing it away from Richard Petty.
Durability's been great today, Keith. The 28 of the 40 starting cars are still in the race. Among those who have dropped out have been Grand American champion Tiny Lund and the National Sportsman champion Red Farmer, in addition to the 2 Yarboroughs, and Benny Parsons, a good driver from Detroit.
Chris, I think if you had to look for a duel within the body of a race to be excited about, this would be the one. A.J. Foyt in the 69 Mercury leading Richard Petty in the blue car, a 71 Plymouth. Richard Petty, of course, could become the first man to win $1 million if he has a good luck this year on the Grand National Circuit. Buddy Baker runs third behind A.J. Foyt and Richard Petty. We're heading for the climactic moments of the Daytona 500. Chris, it looks like it'd be a 5-car drag race to the finish line.
Well, that's right. Never before in the history of the Daytona 500 have there been 5 cars in the same lap, equally competitive, all capable of leading. Everyone has the advantage, if that's possible.
The 5 cars are A.J. Foyt leading, Richard Petty right behind him, followed by Buddy Baker, Donnie Allison, and David Pearson. That red car running with the leaders right there is Fred Lorenzen. Car number 99, the red Plymouth, he is a lap down at this point.
The speeds are still in the 177, 78, 79 mile an hour range. The pace of the race, however, down to 140 and a fraction due to yellow flags, Keith.
A.J. Foyt and Richard Petty have been bumper to bumper. And Foyt drops back. Foyt goes down low, and he has slowed down. A.J. Foyt is dropping back.
Oh, he's in trouble. It appears, Keith, as though he's coasting. Yes, he is. He's coasting. He could be a number of things.
So Richard Petty inherits the lead when Foyt suddenly dropped down inside and, as Chris said, is coasting, obviously, toward the pits.
On a break here, and here comes Petty into the pits under the green to take on fuel. This could be a big break for Richard. He's been hounded all day long by A.J. Foyt. Pearson is in as well. The tanks must be dry. They've gone more than 100 miles since they last refueled.
So now let's watch what happens in the pits as Pearson is going to be quick out. Petty will be quick out, and here comes A.J. Foyt.
They're going right to work. And AJ's not getting out of the car. Apparently he's out of gas, and they're changing the right side tires.
He rode a silent mount into the pits, so the engine was not running, and obviously that's what's happened. They tried to stretch it just a little too far. At least you'd have to guess that.
You know, for the moment, he's still the leader. Richard Petty's car's right behind him. But there goes Petty out of the pits now. Look at him slither on pit lane, and uh-oh, there goes the yellow light on. The yellow light is on, and the Porsche pace car heads for the track. And there goes AJ, ready to go.
Pete Hamilton is the man who has caused the yellow light. Hamilton has blown an engine. Pete Hamilton.
Foyt's car won't start. They've got to prime the engine. This has been a costly stop. The yellow light is on. The field is slowing down, and the caution car has gotten between Petty and Foyt.
Here's Hamilton now, rolling down into the pits. The yellow light is on. So it was Hamilton whose engine blew, and here we've got Donnie Allison, who was in the lead under the caution flag. Donnie Allison has hit the wall. Right down in front of the start-finish line, Donnie Allison, suddenly his car swerved to the right and he banged into the wall. He's out, he's all right, but suddenly the lead was gone for him, and Chris Economaki is making his way over to see if we can find out what caused the wreck to Donnie Allison.
Donnie, you just lost it. What caused the accident?
Well, Chris, my brake's been locking up all day, and they gave me a signal in the pits. When I looked back up, Raymond was stopping, and I tried to stop him, and I just couldn't do it.
Donnie Allison, perhaps the saddest man in all of Florida right now.
As you can see, the yellow light, caution light is still on. The pace car holding the field. Richard Petty has just about a full lap lead over A.J. Foyt. While we're waiting for the green, let's take one more look at the spectacular accident involving Maynard Troyer.
He was very fortunate in this spectacular rollover, Keith. The doctor said that despite critical head injuries, he has now responded to treatment and is expected to recover. And he's a lucky fellow, that 32-year-old from Spencerport, New York.
Breathtaking moment at the Daytona 500, but the green is out now, and here we go racing again. Particularly, let's watch Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, David Pearson, and A.J. Foyt.
I'm watching A.J., Keith. He's going to really go now. He wants this race. He's got to pass Petty twice to win it.
And if everything stays the way it is right now, Chris, there's just no way. I don't believe that he can make up that much distance, because Petty is running right now like he is on a string. His teammate, in effect, Buddy Baker, running right behind him. David Pearson, number 17, you just saw, he is a lap down.
Race drivers, Keith, live in hope. And what A.J. Foyt is hoping for right now, that he can nose ahead of Petty and then have a yellow flag that will allow him to circle around the back and gain a lap, the way Petty picked up the lap on A.J. Foyt is not doing well right now. Petty is setting a blistering pace. He can see that checkered flag. It's less than 10 laps away.
Richard Petty driving the 71 Plymouth, number 43, the white Dodge, 71 Dodge. Buddy Baker edging out of the draft, and he takes the lead over Richard Petty.
This is a bit surprising. Now, here we have two teammates who have the race virtually in their pocket, and now the second driver goes past his boss. He'll hear about this on Monday morning.
The sign being flashed out of both Petty and Baker's pits. And that could be, Chris, a simple question. Are we leading?
Well, I'm sure they know they're leading. I think it's a question of how hard they should go to the end. You know, they've got a lap on the field now, and they've got things pretty much their own way. But here comes A.J. trying now, and A.J. pulls it off, or just about pulls it off. And when he gets by Baker, if that yellow light should light, why, he'll have that lap back. And, of course, with just a few laps left, it's an unlikely possibility, but A.J. never quit.
Baker is the leader. Richard Petty is in second place. There goes Foyt running 183 miles an hour. That's faster than he qualified.
Where he finds the speed, when he wants it, he gets it, and now he's taken that lap back. He is in the same lap now with the leaders, though he's got a long way to go to race with them. And Richard Petty doesn't want to let him get away. He's trying to hang on.
Oh, while we're watching A.J.'s desperation bid, and Richard Petty moving past Buddy Baker into the lead again. So it's Petty, Baker, and Foyt in that order.
Now, A.J. is in the same lap with Richard Petty, but about 85% of a lap behind. The only thing that can help A.J. at this late stage is a yellow flag. And there's Maurice Petty, Richard's brother, who's been crew chief for Buddy Baker today. Dale Inman, Richard's cousin, is his crew chief.
Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, 1-2. A.J. Foyt running just in front of him. The better part of the race course behind. He is in third place. So this is a moment when it's literally nothing but a moment of nerves for all those along pit road that have labored to make these cars run so well today. And certainly I'm sure that Richard Petty has his task well in mind and well in hand, as Buddy Baker now in second place has dropped well back. He's back about 12, 13 seconds.
Baker apparently is having a little trouble handling his car. You know, the Daytona Speedway, Keith, has a history of things happening. Races being won and races being lost on the last lap. Look at that. Crossed fingers in the Buddy Baker pit.
Well, I'll tell you, the last race we saw here a year ago when Pete Hamilton won, he won it in the last gasp. And here we go for the white flag. And the final exciting moments of the 13th Daytona 500. It looks like at this point it's going to be Petty, Baker, and Foyt.
A.J. has made a great drive, and Richard Petty is unable to catch him. At least A.J. Foyt is winning this last lap drive. He won't win the race. He just can't win it. Richard is right there behind him, and A.J. is showing him some speed. He's shown him his class all day long. But Petty, the great Southern stock car driver, coming around now will take the checkered flag for an unprecedented third Daytona 500 triumph, making him a man among men in stock car racing. And now for the flag in his 120th career victory as A.J. takes the white silk.
So it'll be Richard Petty, car number 43, 71 Plymouth, winning for the third time here at Daytona. Buddy Baker in a 71 Dodge. Petty prepared, finishes second. And A.J. Foyt in a 1969 Mercury, prepared by the Woods brothers, comes in third. So it's a happy crew along pit road with the Petty name on their back. And here comes Foyt finishing third.
David Pearson, Fred Lorenzen, and Jim Vandiver, 4th, 5th, and 16th.
And Vandiver did quite a job. He started 32nd on the grid today, but came on for a very strong finish. So Richard Petty in car number 43 moves down into victory lane. So does Chris Economaki.
Here's Bill France presenting Richard Petty with the Harley Earl Award, one of the many awards he's going to get for winning the Daytona 500. And his happy family right here. Richard, this is the greatest stock car race in the world, and you're the only man to have ever won it 3 times. I know it's soon, but did you think about that during the race?
Not really. The only thing I was worried about was when we made our last pit stop there, I had a little trouble with the gas tank. The gas wouldn't take the gas real good, and I lost a little bit of time to Betty there. And then right at that same time, I think A.J. ran out of gas, and this really gave us a break we was looking for. 2 or 3 times in the race, I was able to sort of break away from the crowd, and then every time we get going good, they'd have a caution flag and everybody'd catch back up. But it looked like the way the last caution fell, it worked out really